Hello and welcome back to chapter 11 of my SPAD 13 build. In this chapter we'll be covering the painting basics of the fuselage. As the bottom of the airplane surfaces were basically unpainted linen, with this in mind I decided to use an antique white latex paint to duplicate that type of color. Here you can see the components as I was applying this paint. I initially used a roller to apply the paint, but I was not happy with the results and ended up spraying it. In between painting these surfaces, I decided to mask off the rudder and paint it in the iconic red, white, and blue. With the bottom surfaces now completed, it was time to move on to the top surfaces, the ones we will see and also have the camouflage paint. As can be seen here, I got a little overzealous with my sanding and had to put a patch on the fuselage. I did not care for the way the paint was covering the gray primer that I had previously used, so I decided to prime it with white paint and was very happy with the end results. It sanded very easily and made for a much smoother surface. During this process, I decided to apply the red, white, and blue bands around the landing gear. If I would have known how difficult it would be to do this, I probably would have not gone ahead. The painting was very difficult, and it was very difficult to get good sharp edges around each of the color bands. However, after a while and a few trials, I finally got something that was satisfactory, at least to me. Here you can see the finished product, just waiting for the clear protective coating. As mentioned earlier, I decided to overcoat the original primer that I used with a Zinsser 123 spray primer, which applied very easily, and one of the bonus things to it was it sanded extremely well, especially if you used the wet sanding techniques. With the sanding now complete, it was time to apply the first color of the camouflage scheme. When spray painting multiple different colors, you always start off with the lightest color first. So here you can see I sprayed the basically sand color. This is generously applied well beyond where the masking tape will be applied for the second color. This will aid in making sharp separation lines, and the technique will be described in the video which comes later. While spraying does a much nicer job than painting with a brush, the preparation work is considerably more entailed. Due to the flow of the camouflage lines, I was using 1/8 and 1/4 inch masking tape to lay out the original lines, which is then followed with the larger tapes and the paper. With this now complete, it was time to apply the second color, which is a light green. With the fuselage now masked off, it is time to apply the third color, which is the brown color. As can be seen, the masking and taping and covering up of the model is now becoming a little more complex, as each color now has to be covered individually. I was using my Pash airbrush to apply the latex paint. It was a bit of a slow process, but I had very good control over paint application and very minimal overspray, which is important. As you can see, I'm working in a relatively small shop. During the spraying operations, I actually have a fan in the one of the windows of the door, and so I get good ventilation and there's no buildup of spray or fumes. So here's the final masking preparation for the final coat that will be black, applied to the aircraft, mostly on the tail surfaces. This is a picture of the Pash airbrush that I was using on this project, and I can't recommend it highly enough. A great little airbrush. So the painting is done, and now it's time to unmask and see what it looks like. The following is a short video of the unmasking. I hope you do enjoy it. Hello, welcome to the shop. I basically just finished my last coat of camo. The
camo scheme used on the Spad 13, that is. I basically tried to emulate the type that was used on the Eddie Rickenbacker model. Varying success on that, I'm not sure about how it's going to come out. But as you can see, I've just finished the last color, which is black, on the tail feathers and the rudder, or the fin rather. And as soon as you're ready to start peeling the masking tape off and flyer newspapers off, and see what we actually have for the result. So stand by. So the paint has dried, looking pretty good. So now the truth or consequences. Hopefully there's no consequences. Let's have a look to see what it's going to look like. This might be a little boring. I should talk a little bit about the paint, I suppose. Because there is actually 6 different colors used on the airplane, and I wanted to use a latex-based paint, and unfortunately all I can do is buy it in quarts or liters. It gets rather expensive at $60, $70 a quart. So I decided I would try an experiment and just use basically the, I guess they call it the artist paints that you can buy at art stores. And anyway, I did a couple of test shots and it seemed to work out well. The plan is, as you can see or will see, it dries very, very flat. And I want to have a little bit of a sheen to it, so I'm going to cover this with a clear. That will also protect it because the flat paint, it scratches and marks up really, really easy. So you need to have a protective coat over it. So let's move on. I'll probably have to stand around in front here at some point. As mentioned in the first video, and by the way, I apologize about the noise. The fan, I didn't realize how noisy that was. I tried to emulate the aircraft that Eddie Rickenbacker flew, Spad 13. So again, trying to find the paint was almost impossible. But let's see how this progresses out of here. My biggest fear is pulling the tape off and pulling the paint off underneath of it, which unfortunately has been known to happen. Anybody who paints, spray paints, knows that feeling. And as I mentioned, it doesn't take much to mark this latex paint. Now, let's just see what goes in here. Maybe I'll go back on the other side. Yeah, that's better. So one of the techniques I use when you're painting something like this and you're having colors that butt up to each other is when you put your tape down, take the spray paint of the color that was originally there and put that on the edge of the tape so that when you peel it off, hopefully you'll get a sharp color. And one of the things I found out is that it was different with the First World War camouflage is they didn't do like they did in the Second World War, where they just basically faded in and out between the two colors, so feathered it in and out. On these First World War aircraft, they used tape and made sharp lines. So that's why it looks like it does. It's supposed to be the way it was. This is almost like I took it off in the total way that I did it, because each section after it was done had to be taped off, then the next section done and then taped off. It was just a gradual building up of lots of paper and masking tape. Fun and games, they might say. hopefully at the end of the day, the fun and games will be worth it. Oh, I'm not sure this will be okay. Once I'm done, I'm going to take a walk around with the camera so you can see everything, what it looks like. There's a little piece came off. And I'm happy about that. Relatively easy. This was the last area that I did, and also going to be one of the hardest ones to take off without making a mess of the paint. At least I hope not. I'll get this light out of the way. There we are. Not perfect, but not bad. Just hope I don't have to do this all over again. I think it'll become a one-color airplane at that point. Let's see what we got Couple little bleed throughs on this side. Not happy about that, but it is what it is. Now, this last little tape here. Not bad. I have to do a little bit of touching up. The worst spots are going around tight turns or changes in direction. That's where it becomes an issue. Yeah, a little more than I thought. A little more than I was hoping, I should say. Those are pretty nice lines. Oh, got a leak, got a bleed through. bad. Not too shabby. Not bad. Yeah. That actually there is just the outlet for the control cable for the rudder. Not an imperfection. It's supposed to be that way. Another little bleed through there. Give me a little touching up. Now, let's see if I can let's see how this came out. Yeah, nice. I wish they all looked like that. This is just kind of like Christmas morning. You never know what you're going to get. So be really careful with a X-Acto knife. We're dealing with fabric here. Well, other than the bottom, that's pretty well it. So, that video's been running longer than I thought. So, let's just take a quick look around. There's still a few things that have to come off. By and large, I get to see where the color schemes were, how the breaks were, and a couple bleed throughs, a couple spots need to be touched up. But overall, not bad. Let's just have a quick look through here and see what we can see. So, looking around towards the front. And then over to the other side. And you can see the scheme. Not too bad, not too bad at all. And just so you know roughly where this is coming from, there's my actually 6th view. And this is basically what I used to lay out the colors. And tried to follow it as close as possible, but not always so much. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this unmasking of the SPAD 13. And hopefully it'll look better when it's done.
So, I hope you enjoyed that little video. It kind of gives you an idea of what was involved, especially with the taping. After sitting back and critiquing the aircraft and the colors, I basically came up with the plan that I'm not happy with the light green. It doesn't really emulate the color that I'm looking for. It's more of a dark green. So, as much as I hated to, start taping and masking again. So, here you can see the application of the new color, which is a darker green, and it really does blend in much better for the SPAD 13. The extra work was well worth it, and I was very pleased with the finished result. So here you can see it basically the way it's going to be basically clear coated. As I mentioned earlier, this is latex paint. It scratches and doesn't wear very well by itself. So I put on a clear coat over it with a flat or matte finish. I hope you've enjoyed this chapter of the build and the painting of the SPAD 13. And as they say, stay tuned, more to come.